All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Samurai Blitz. We have a special guest today. This is Aaron Stevenson. Thank you, Aaron, for taking the time to come talk to us. Now, Aaron is Orthodox Christian, father, monarchist, which I'm kind of interested in you explaining that. Fire DHS whistleblower, which I'm also very intrigued on how that went down, and Christ is King. Man, I really appreciate you taking the time, and go ahead and introduce yourself, brother.
Yeah, and again, I'm not good at this. So,
You're all right. You're all
right. I was born in 1982. I'm a very old millennial from the south suburbs of Chicago. So I'm a Midwest kid. Graduated high school in June 2001. Went to boot camp July 2001. 9/11. Right. I graduated a month later. That trajectory of life obviously got altered because of 9/11. Spent eight years in the Marine Corps intelligence. I did 3 deployments to Iraq as a Marine. I kind of stopped believing in the war, not like a hippie. I wasn't like, but it was just like, I felt like we're not winning. We're not, we're just kind of now like nation building. It just wasn't a thing. So I got out. I had 2 kids at the time. I was married. This is 2010. And I became a contractor for DOD. So I was working for the National Ground Intelligence Center and the Defense Intelligence Agency. That was in Charlottesville, Virginia. In 2010 through 2012, that took me to Afghanistan 3 times. So different war, different type of service, did that. And then in that time frame, it took forever to become a Fed. I got an offer finally from DHS to work at small little agency, but it was doing intelligence and vetting. And then that got rolled into CBP, Customs Border Protection. Same job. It was just the 2013 sequester where they were like, oh, we're going to condense the government. And that's all we did. We just moved flagpoles. And when I was there, and I started there in September 2012, sequester 2013, and in this time frame, I'm already kind of seeing like, because I joined DHS still wanting to serve, like I do believe in that, right? But like right away, I was like, man, we let a lot of bad guys in. Like we're proving these guys are bad. That guy's he's Al Qaeda. This guy's a known facilitator. This is whatever. But they but they already have immigration benefits, so they can already enter the country. And they had nothing to do that could stop them because everything we had was classified, and we can't use classified information in court, blah, 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 which even that I think is stupid. But so after about 18 months there, I transferred finally to USCIS because my idea was like, cool, I can go to work at USCIS where they're giving out immigration benefits, and I can be a better steward there, and I can like capture the fraud and the national security problems before, they get their benefits. That's not true. So I learned that right away. And then that kind of sucked, right? Because then it's like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm just taking a paycheck for no reason at all. This, bad guys will keep coming to the country. We're losing. And in that time frame, I switched over from focusing on, sorry for that noise.
You're fine, man.
I focused on, at the time, it was pretty much national security, public safety. So a lot of like terrorism cases, and then also like fraud patterns. Well, then I got into this new program that was going on. It was called the Transnational Organized Crime Working Group, where it was to detect and deter and defeat transnational organized crime cartels. So whenever I say, TOC or TOC or transnational organized crime, I'm just going to say cartels because that's a little bit more conversational, right?
Yeah. I was going to say you might have lost me if you didn't tell me what that was.
My square glasses. So anyways, I was so
those Drew Carries. Put on those Drew Carries, man.
Right. So so we started this thing up. Wasn't that difficult, easy concept. Government's very risk adverse at times. So it was kind of slow, methodical. Trump comes in, gets a little bit faster, blah, blah, blah. And then first administration under President Trump, I saw like, wow, man, like the government's actually more corrupt than I thought. Like there's overt, things that they just hate him and all these crazy things. And to me, it was nuts. And I was like, I voted for Trump 2016. I was one of those like libertarian bros. I was, I didn't vote Romney in 2012 because what they did to Rand Paul. And then like I had that libertarian stain on me. And then, right. Over time, I've shifted overtly right wing. Let's just cover that as well really quick. But at the time, that was that. So then by the time 2020 hit, we spent the entire year on lockdown. And that wasn't me at the time. I was an atheist, again, one of those guys. And it just went through a big change for me. And I came to the determination of, okay, I've seen what they've done now to our society, our country, our people, and I can either like keep taking this paycheck and do nothing at all and hand this horrible system over to my kids, or I can do the right thing, right? So come 2021, that was when I came across the information of the watchlist cartel members applying for and getting these unaccompanied alien kids at the border, the unaccompanied minors, the kids that come to the border by themselves, whatever. And that's that. So that's my kind of my background as far as my professional work. Obviously,
That's one hell of a resume, man. I gotta say,
thank you.
that's very impressive. I'm like, wow, okay.
The whistleblowing comes after this, right? And then like
Okay, gotcha.
everything else comes after that too. So however you want to talk, I'm down. Again, I'm very good question answer. I'm not
Okay.
very good doing what I just did. Like that's a one-time thing, man.
Oh no, you're good, brother. Hey man, well I do want to say for the people, definitely go follow him. I'm gonna put the link on there. Aaron and a couple other people do X Spaces. Very informative, a bunch of ex-military, a bunch of ex-intelligence people going in there talking. I've learned a lot from y'all. That's how you came on my radar, and I was like, I'm sorry.
Like what?
Oh, just like the way y'all talk about like the way the government works. I remember one conversation you were saying how it takes like weeks just to think about what table they're gonna have a meeting on, and I was like, what? Like somebody that's a civilian like myself, I was like, is that for real? And then I started like just learning little things, and then the codes y'all say, like what you're saying earlier with you rather say cartel. I was kind of getting into it, like, oh wow, so these like y'all have a lot of background in intelligence, so it's kind of interesting to people like me that civilians that never really heard the terminology, and I was very impressed, like, oh shit. So I started following you more and more, and I started commenting on a lot of your posts, and I know that you're very involved in the child sex trafficking ring and all that stuff going on, and definitely I feel the same way. It needs to be exposed, it needs to be eliminated as soon as possible. I Since you're talking about that, I'm sure you've seen A Line in the Sand by James O'Keefe.
Actually, no, it is. I don't watch anything, even the movies that I'm in. I don't even watch those. It's only
Okay.
because it's like I know everyone in that movie, so it's like I'm not
Mm.
learning anything, and it's not. I'm not saying don't watch it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like I'm not going to take 2 hours. I've never seen, for example, Sound of Freedom, and I'm not saying like that's a bad movie. I'm not saying don't watch it. I'm just saying
It's a
I
really
know
good movie.
trafficking exists. I'm not going to invest 2 hours of my time when I can use 2 hours to do blah blah blah, like whatever I'm working on or whatever else.
Well,
Um,
definitely, that's awesome. I mean, just putting all your time and being productive and doing the groundwork to kind of expose all the stuff, which is very commendable. Now, the Line in the Sand was very interesting, just because we saw a lot of the stuff even here, because I'm from San Antonio, Texas, so they were bringing in a lot of people in San Antonio, as you know, and you would see like little kids, you would see like people, and it looked like very sketchy. They had a hotel area where they you would see kids like teenagers, not kids, but teenagers, kind of standing out there. A lot of people were reporting like prostitution rings were going on. It was just a terrible situation. It looked like a third world country in our little part of the city, which I'm only like 5 minutes away from where the immigration center was. And yeah, you get all these white people talking about it's always woke white people, always talking about like we need to let everybody in and all this. And it's like, okay, let's put that in your neighborhood, because you already know what it brings. It brings a bunch of crime, it brings prostitution, it brings a bunch of pedophilia and all kinds of stuff. The cartels were making money hand over fist. All these NGOs were just, stacking cash the whole time, and conducting the biggest invasion in American soil that we've ever seen. Definitely want to talk about that. So you did get fired for whistleblowing, and what was? Can you explain that more in detail?
Yeah. So I blew the whistle on a total of, I think it's actually like 4 or 5 things, but I got fired for basically 3 of them. So the first one, it got publicly disclosed in August 2021. Now, keep in mind, like everything I blew the whistle on, I tried first, like addressing it and defeating it through government, channels, whatever, like at work, right?
Mhm.
So in February 2021, the this thing that I was on, right? So this is the cartel working group, right? It's also a watch listing program. So that means it's a watch list, which means there's people on this watch list. And if these people do things, like it's going to tell this little ping, and then the government knows about it, right? So people know what a watch list is. For example, can terrorists fly in the country? No, because when they give their fingerprints, those are watch listed. So when it goes on an application, the government's like, oh, that guy's totally a terrorist, don't let him in. It really is that simple. It's not very complicated at all. Obviously, it can be more expansive. There's more data points you can collect to use as watch listing information, blah, blah, blah. But it ain't hard. Let me just say that off the bat. So I was part of this group from its inception. So I was very intimate with it. I was on it for it was created in like 2015-ish. So, about 5.5 years in, give or take. I'm seeing these records come through, and every day you get these transactions or encounters because the alien whose watch list is being encountered, and they come in through email, and they're pretty much live feed. So, like, let's say a watch listed cartel member wants to buy a flight into America. Again, we're going to see the credit card information, name, date of birth, whatever. Let's say a guy gets pulled over for a DUI. He gets pinged. Oh yeah, whatever. Oh, this guy's getting out of prison. He gets pinged. So we know like their pattern of life, right? What's important to understand though is this watch list was capped at the time 40,000 people. So it was limited severely, man-made. And again, I'm saying this for a reason because the terrorism watch list, which we all know about, does not have a cap. It is unlimited. The entire world could be watch listed if they choose to, and it would operate just fine. But for this cartel watch list, they limited it at the time to 40,000. By the time I got fired, I think it was 50,000. And what I would see every day was around, I think it was like a 20 to 25 of these encounters. So again, like, you know, prison release, DUI, and immigration benefit, by the way, they could go get immigration benefits if they're already in the country. Don't even start on it. But
I saw that.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of that. Getting phones, credit cards, and all kinds of stuff on the government. I mean, on the taxpayer dime, and it's like, you know, when you question it, people, oh, that's racist. You shouldn't question these things. Like, what are you talking about? It was just ridiculous, all the shit going on during that time. So I didn't know. I mean, that's interesting that you were involved in during that time during the Biden when he just basically opened the borders for everybody.
We knew it.
And that's
we knew
I'm sorry?
We knew at the end stages of the first Trump administration it was going to happen. By December, we were getting reporting saying like, hey, a lot of people are coming up right now. There's going to be a run on the border, and they're all coming for economic reasons. Like, it's that simple. It was plain.
Yeah, we had economic migrants for sure, and I know you remember this. Remember they even had the Joe Biden shirts, "Let us in." Like it was just so obvious, but people were just like, "No, the border's not open." You know, he didn't really say that. Mixed signals like crazy, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So they were 50,000 on the list.
Yeah.
And
so
then,
February 2021, I'm going through these daily records, and one of these things has an indicator, like the reason why you're watching it. Again, like you'd see prison release, DUI arrest, whatever, right? This one just says 8 USC 279 UAC sponsor. That was the code. And I was just like, you know, whatever that means. I kind of blew past it. It doesn't involve us. A month later, March, I see another one, same code, 8 USC 279 whatever. And so I'm looking at it. I'm like, I remember seeing that last month. It just kind of like, I'm an analyst. I've got a memory. And I was like, I remember seeing that. Like, what the hell is that? So I searched it throughout my my PSD file, which housed every single encounter I've ever had of this program, which is all of them. So I searched that code, and only like 2 records appeared: the one I was looking at and the one from the month prior. And so I was like, did we start like is there a new law? Because I could see it already, 8 USC, that's 8 US code, right? I was like, did we start like a new law which says something, whatever? So I Googled it like anybody else would. And it comes back with this unaccompanied alien child program, HHS, whatever. And I was like, never heard of that before. I knew about special immigrant juveniles. I knew about, family arrivals. I knew those things, but this I had no idea about. So I asked around some colleagues at work at USCIS, and it was just, like, hey guys, do we deal with like unaccompanied kids or unaccompanied children, this whatever? And everyone was just like, like, no, we don't do that. And I was like, okay, because that's weird. So I'm like, finishing whatever, and I'm just kind of thinking about it. And it's, the guy's watch listed. I think this one was an 18th Street gang member. Maybe it was MS-13. But like, you just kind of say it out loud to yourself, right? You're like, well, why would an MS-13 member be trying to sponsor a child? And then when you say it out loud, you kind of hear it for yourself, and you're like, oh,
yeah.
Why would an MS-13? Yeah. It makes sense right away. A month later, I see another one. So this is the third one in 3 months now, right? Watch list is capped at 40,000. Border crossings at this time are around like 250,000 a month. So this is able to capture very, very little of all of these people coming in. And I'm seeing one every 4 weeks. So for me, that was enough to deduce like, okay, maybe I'm seeing a pattern here on something that's very, very small. And when I looked up this third person, that was kind of like my final alarm bell. So the first 3 people, February, March, April, 2 were dudes, 1 was a chick. One of them was 18th Street gang, one of them was MS-13, and this third guy was a Romanian from from a Balkan crime group in Eastern Europe. And then when you look at the other two, one was, I think, Honduran, and one was El Salvadoran. And one was, so that's three different gangs in 3 different countries, all doing the same thing, which just started. So when you actually look at that, as opposed to just like, oh, there's been 250,000 crossings a month and there's these 3 bad guys. It's like, no. Like, we have never seen gangs do this before. Like, gangs on a fucking watch list, like going to this program to get kids. We know they traffic kids. We know that there's gang involvement inside the program. That was already established. But now we're seeing like actual gang members try to sponsor the kids. And that was the final alarm bell again, because you're seeing the same activity across 3 different countries of 3 different gangs. And if there's one thing I think you understand, you're from San Antonio, you said? Any gangs out there? Yeah. So if one gang creates this new magic drug, are they going to like disperse it to the rival gangs? No, they're going to want to saturate the territory, control the supply themselves, whatever, right? And what I was looking at on the other side of reporting was like violence and, like cartel wars, either at the border, north of the border, or south of the border, and it wasn't happening. So you see this controlled process and you see different gangs doing the same thing. And that to me was like, holy shit, this is something huge. Holy shit, like what am I dealing with? At this point in time, I told you I was going to swear. At this point,
you're good, man. I swear all the
So at this point in time, I'm calling around now other entities of not only the cartel working group, so that's going to be Department of Justice, Terrorist Screening Center, parts of the State Department of Labor and Treasury, but also like colleagues I knew in offices at Customs Border Protection, ICE HSI, DHS Intelligence, or INA. I'm reaching out to just like, okay, hey, is anybody tracking this? Like, I'm looking at gang members getting kids. Do you guys measure this? Do you guys do you want to know more? And all of them were doing the same thing, which was like, no, we're not seeing that, but like zero curiosity. No, like, whoa, shit, that's our mission. Like, tell us about that because we care about these things. And so this keeps going on now, where I see one every like 4 weeks. See another one in May, see another one in June. And like, I am pressing as hard as I can throughout the government. And these are, by the way, official protected disclosures. When you're addressing things in the government, you are already a whistleblower. But no one was picking it up. So now at this point in time, I'm talking to a journalist at Project Veritas, and I'm like, you guys need to do a fucking story on this because you have no idea how bad it is over here. Like, nobody cares, and it's much bigger than people realize. And my projection, like based on the raw numbers I had, was like, man, this must be like 900 kids or like 1,200 kids, like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. What I didn't know is what Tara Rodas and Debbie White and Myra Moreno and Carl Soriano, other whistleblowers came forward after me. And what they started reporting was like, oh no, this is way, way bigger, right? And that's how we now finally understand up to like 365,000 missing kids over a very short time frame, right? Yeah. So I'm thinking in my head like, oh my gosh, like this could be 1,000 kids, I'm freaking out. And so I'm pushing on Veritas. And they, the journalist was like, dude, we are looking at our other sources. Like, we have sources in the government, we're looking, no one's reflecting this. Like, no one's seeing what you're seeing right now. And they were trying to find out. Yeah, I know.
That's wild. I'm sorry, but that's wild that nobody else, like, they can't verify any of those accounts. And when you're talking about 1,200 kids, 1,000 kids, you're talking about in like a couple month span, right? Like in a 3-4 month span.
I only saw, by the time I blew the whistle, I saw 8 records. By the time it got public, I saw 9. But based on projections, based on, again, small watch list, number of transactions, how many gang members are there in the world, blah, 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 blah. You model it out. It's like, okay, I can confidently say there's at least 900 to 1,200 kids getting trafficked. Confident in that one, right? So with that, they were also looking at other parts of like this chain. And they were like, dude, we're not seeing anything. So no one was seeing yet the hotels, as you described, the transportation networks, the hotel. No one was seeing anything yet. And so I was like, cool, then you're going to do a story because no one knows. So they just kept hitting the wall on it. And I said, I'll do an interview if you guys need me to. I will explain it because I know it's part of the thing. Like, I will convey this, whatever, right? So in July of 2021, I go meet with them. We do a sit-down interview. And by the way, right before this, DHS Intelligence came out with it's called a collection primer. So a quick pause on the story, and I'm going to explain now the intelligence enterprise and how it works. Because intelligence is an industry, it's an enterprise. Like, it's a very, very organized, structured militant, regimented process. Like everyone's got a job, whatever, right?
Mm.
And the rough outline is this. Intelligence is a cycle, right? So at the beginning of the cycle is what's called planning, and that comes top down. And then you have what's called collection. That's when you soak up information. Then you have processing. That's where analysts are like, Then you have production, where they then take processed information and create an intelligence product. So this could be a map. This could be an analysis. This could be whatever, right? Hey, we found a bunch of intercepted phone calls, and here's our product explaining what was, what it was. And then finally is distribution. So that's the intel cycle. The distribution goes out to, this is more of the operations now, and this is what we call the ops intel cycle. And operations do operations. So operations then feed intelligence, and intelligence feeds operations. And this is the beautiful dance that makes the world go round for the federal government, right? So the DHS INA, Intelligence and Analysis component, they came out with a collection primer. So this is them saying like, it's like a primer, like a code on the wall. Like this is the fucking rough draft here, guys. Mm-hmm. And it was a collection primer on international gangs. And the whole point was, this is what we want to collect on. It was all guns and drugs. Like everything inside there was guns and drugs, guns and drugs. So it's like, okay, so no one's even looking at it then. Now I'm confirming this right before I sit down with Veritas. I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like I can understand now why no one at DHS like was receiving it, but there was also no one cared about it. And it does explain away DOJ, because DOJ was getting these things too. All these emails that I was seeing, 108, 109, give or take, emails were on there as well. It wasn't just me. Like this was a whole of government approach to combat, transnational organized crime, child trafficking being one of the things. So back to the story. I do the interview, mid-July, it comes out, August 2021. In that time frame, another sponsor was on the watch list trying to get the kids. So they had to go and post up and say like, our source says another, so that goes public, and that's it for me. So it's like, okay, like I did it. Like that's what I had to do. I had to, get it out there. And my intent was, it wasn't just to tell like the American people, right? It was really to throw a flag in the air, because like there's more people that I just can't touch. I can touch parts of, the TOC working group and like the enforcement community. I can reach out that way and deliver people, but I can't get other people I don't know about. So my intent was like, shoot up, there was a flare, like who's seeing this, guys? You out there? And people were. So I didn't know about this. But Debbie White, she saw the video. They were already seeing trafficking indicators. They were in Pomona, California. They were already reporting trafficking cases. But now they were like, holy shit, this Fed is saying that like, that this is coming from watch list. We know that they're going to, cartels. And then that spurred them in a different way of looking at things. Debbie, Tara, Myra, they changed a little bit of like the way they did things, and they started finding cases right away. And then that's when they started getting retaliated against by the government, whatever, right? So that's it for child trafficking. But I'm wearing blinders now. I don't know what they're doing because I did what I did. Then I went public on another whistleblowing exposure because of government corruption with immigration. That one, I went like public. I revealed my face. I'm Aaron Stevenson. Hey guys, watch out for what they're doing. And that's when I got on the radar, because they were like, hey, the first time you came and talked to us, like you blew the whistle on child trafficking. Now you're back, right? So once the government saw that, they were like, oh, he was the guy. Okay, yeah, like let's fucking fire this guy then. And this begins the investigation of me. I get put on investigation like right away. And then, so then my last whistleblowing exposure came about a year later. This was in May 2022 when the story came out. Remember Afghanistan? August 2021, fall of Kabul. Yes. We imported 8,000
Afghans. Yes, the terrible job that Biden did, and I was just in the middle of the night. Hey, let's get up.
So I was in Afghanistan again, 2010 to 2012. Made a lot of friends. The SOCOM community, right? We stayed good buddies. And a buddy hit me up in early August of 21, right before I blew the whistle publicly. And he was, this is right before it came out. And he asked me a question about immigration. He brought me into like a Signal group chat with some other people. And this thing was just like, questions were flying. It was a bunch of, like Fort Bragg, area codes, you know who it is. But I asked him like, dude, what the hell's going on? And he's like, we're trying to get our sources and our interpreters out of Afghanistan. Like it's falling, dude. Like this is just going to fall apart quick. We're trying to get our friends out of there. So I stayed in this chat group until like the last day, and even actually afterwards, just answering immigration questions, trying to get good people who have verified good, Afghans, because a lot of them are not, trying to get them out of the country safely. It wasn't in America, but understanding like, hey, this is how immigration works. You can file for this. A lawyer can file for this. You can, go to a refugee camp. Like there's options here, guys, right? So I saw what was happening. I saw the intelligence 12 hours prior of the Abbey Gate attack, before Abbey Gate got attacked and Marines got killed in a corpsman. So I saw what was going on, like from a behind the scenes perspective as well. But I also knew, based on that, like, wow, we're letting in a lot of shitheads right now. And Afghans had control more than we did of who got through the lines. Sorry, the Taliban had control more than we did of who got through the lines to get in the airport. So I'm reporting this to work, being like, hey guys, I'm working like on my off time, like, and this is a lot of intelligence coming in saying a lot of bad guys are coming in. So we might want to get Johnny in the spot right now and make sure that we're covering our vetting process. And they were all like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
So it was just incompetence.
Yeah, they were actually, so they were de-watch listing, not only from the terrorism watch list, but also from other watch lists the government has. So the Army has this thing called the biometric watch list. And this has, I mean, shit, dude, tens of thousands of people on there. And these are bad people. These are intelligence risks. These are like un-American people that should not be coming in our country. They'd get fired for spying on our bases, or they get fired for, whatever, right? And they get watch listed so that way they couldn't come on a base again in Afghanistan. And now they're flying in the fucking country, and the DOD program was taking them off this watch list. And I'm just like, what the fuck?
So I did hear that though. Yeah, so you're saying the Taliban was the ones that were kind of recruiting the people to come on the
planes? Well, they had two outer perimeters, and we were so HKIA, the airport, Hamid Karzai International Airport, it has a ton of gates. And by the way, now we're gonna do the whole story actually. So it's got a ton of gates, right? And what happened was, once the Taliban hit the outskirts of Kabul and they entered the city, the National Director of Security, this is an Afghan, it's kind of like a DHS, DOJ type entity. Like they're security, but they're not military, but they're not police. It's one of those like state agencies, right? But they take care of like critical infrastructure. They do intelligence, they do those things. So they were manning the gates of the airport because that's one of their jobs. Once they hit the perimeter of the Kabul, these dudes, they dropped their guns, they changed out their fucking uniforms, they put on their man dresses, they had their families already staged nearby, and they were the first ones in the airports to get the fuck out of the country. So now you have an open airport with no gate guards, gates wide open, a city full of however many million people it is, just flee to the airport so that way they can get out of the country. Well, now they encounter no gate guards, all open gates, so they flood the airport. And this created a problem of when it first started off. So now Marines have to go re-secure the inner perimeter, kick everybody out, re-secure the outer perimeter for the first layer on the airport. Then they reduced the entrances down to, I think it was only a couple gates. Abbey Gate, of course, being the most infamous, right? And the further this evacuation went on, the more gates got closed. So eventually, Abbey Gate was it.
That was the one where they were actually even throwing their kids across the barbed wire and all that kind of stuff, right? Which is horrifying. Like and
operationally, the Marines and the British forces and the Army that was there, they did a good job for what they could do. Like they were not handling any mission, and they did a pretty good job. I really commend the British forces because they were going out into the city to actually go get British citizens. So like I had huge respect for them, and I worked with them before. They're awesome. But
that's ballsy as shit, man. I mean, that's courage.
But then you have these two other perimeters outside the airport, which was manned by the Taliban. So there's no way a fucking bomber gets through. There's no way they don't know about the machine gun nest that were shooting at the Marines afterwards. They know for certain who's going through the checkpoints because they were going on all the buses looking for Afghans in the security forces, intelligence, all those kind of things, right? So that's how we knew about this. Like this was being reported in these back channels on Signal. I'm telling my bosses at the government for immigration, I'm like, hey guys, like we're not doing a good job but this is not the Marine Corps' job overseas is to vet people. Like they're just keeping out fucking guns and knives right now. Like this is our job to go like, whoa, yeah, you're not coming in our country. And it was just get them through. So anyways, so I go through this small list I found. It's all, and by the way, everything I'm going to say isn't classified from the entire discussion. this list I found of certain Afghans that came through that were like, "Ooh, we should look at that guy. He might be a security risk." Dude, we found in this small list of like a couple hundred dudes, we found I think 45 or 60 like tier 1 terrorists, right? I don't even know how many tier 2 terrorists, and these are not the women and children. These are just like other types of terrorists that are not tier 1, and then a ton of dudes that were counterintelligence risks.
Can you explain that for people that don't know what's the difference between a tier 1
Yeah,
and tier
guys
2?
that'll kill you and guys that'll help kill you. So guys that'll kill you are tier 1. Tier 2 are guys that'll get the bullets for the guys that kill you. So tier 2 is a bad guy, but he won't pull the trigger, right? Tier 1 will do all the things to actually make sure you die. So that's tier 1, tier 2, and then tier 3 is like a closer associate. Like they're not good. It does, there's like, you might not be in the gang, but you call your gang member friends 18 times a day, So
they're like the cousins
it's
or
like
whatever.
It's good enough to go no, hard no. But
they're affiliated somehow.
Take them off the watch list. All these horrible things. So
I do want to ask a question real quick because I've talked to a lot of ex-military people, and one of the biggest, like things that they complain about was that they were told the whole time that the Afghan military was able to conduct themselves in a way where they would hold the line and they would be, they would be able to combat the Taliban. From what they tell me, like we were told this over and over that they were good enough, and the intelligence was telling them this and over, and then when it came out, they realized like the leaders knew that the Afghan military was totally incompetent and they were going to fold as fast as possible, and that's why a lot of ex-military were saying we were told all this stuff, so we believed it, and then when it came down to it, we realized it was all bullshit. It was a lie, and that like the intelligence was totally wrong, and like you said, they basically took off their uniforms and said, "All right, we're out," and fled. And can you talk a little bit about that?
So my time as an analyst, by the way, again, it's Marine Corps level first, right? So I was not like a headquarter guy. So first deployment, it's company level basically. Like we're on the streets doing patrols, we're doing security whatevers, and I was part of units that were just again very very front line, very very low level, if you will. People hate saying that, but it's like that was low level analyst. That was the street. I always say I'm a street level analyst to begin with. That's my career started at that. And then later I went to a different unit where we were the more like the theater wide whatevers, but I still would always go out to like battalion level and help them out, do analysis, because that's where a lot of things matter. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter at the higher levels as well, but it's like I'm a young analyst. I will do what I'm told to do. I exceeded at it. I learned my job very well, right? And as I go along through my career, I do get placed in like higher echelons. But I go to Afghanistan, we were supporting the tier 1 targeting unit, right? So still like very low level because we were very precise, only doing direct action raids, but with strategic implications, right? So like it's like a wavelength kind of thing. But when it comes to my other deployments to Afghanistan, like I was headquarters stuff there. I was a theater wide thing. I'm trying to set up the biometric and forensics capabilities, helping battalion commanders like understand the capability. So like when I got there, first thing I would do was see like, hey, can I go out and like go to that small base and go to that, can I go to Garmsir, Marja, can I go to all those places, right? And I would talk to the battalion commanders, the company commanders, and they would always say, like, I'd brief them and try to keep it short, but the question was always, what do you do for me? Like, why the fuck are you here? Why do I care about you? Sir, we will tell you who's killing your Marines. We would tell you who not to let on base. Fair? And they'd be like, you know what? I can use that. And then over time, some commanders can see it as a way of either increasing lethality or increasing security, dominating the human terrain, like all these things, right? We're telling you who's in your AO, your area of operations. So I always looked at things first, especially in that kind of environment, like what does the ground fighter need? What does the ground commander need? Like the job of intelligence writ large, no matter where you're at, is to reduce the confusion of the commander. So like super analysts at the NSC, doing like crazy whatever work, or CIA or DIA, their job is to reduce the confusion of their commander. If I'm supporting, Alpha Company, 1-4, my job is to reduce the confusion of the commander. That's it. So like everyone's job is similar. It's just what you're collecting, how you exploit it, and of course who your customer is and how they can use it. So that's that as a whole, right? But what I'm saying that is the reason was, I went ground level from 2010 to 2012 in Afghanistan. Like these dudes knew very well, like, yeah, the Afghans suck. Like, Afghans really, really suck. There's a great scene in this movie called War Machine. It's a Netflix movie. It's got Brad Pitt, and it's actually like a mirror of a story. It's about the whole General Stanley McChrystal. But there's a great line in there where a lieutenant's briefing, Brad Pitt, and he starts off by being like, "Oh yeah, they show up. They're really motivated. Like these Afghans, they're and the camera keeps showing the Afghans, and they're like on drugs, and there's kind of like whatever else." And that's when you see a moment of sobriety from the lieutenant. And he's just like, "Yeah, they're high all the time. Like, I mean, all the time." And these people were right. So we had a base right next to our base in Helmand. So you had Camp Leatherneck, U.S. Marine Corps, Camp Bastion, the UK forces, and then Camp. Was it Mashtar? No, that was the name of the operation. There was another Afghan, whatever, and we would go there every now and then because there was also like a Marine Corps unit there, and we would help them out. But you got to drive through this part of the fucking base. These Afghans, like, they don't drop their Pashtun Wali culture just because they joined security forces. These dudes, I mean, you can smell the weed. You can smell the heroin or the opium, how they do it.
Yeah, there's a big opium farms out there. Yeah.
And
I've also heard they would say don't, because in their culture they have little boys, like their little servants that they do.
Yeah,
yes. And I've heard those stories, and they were telling like Americans, like, that's their culture. We're not gonna fuck with that, which is pretty fucked up. And can you kind of explain a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's true, they use these, and so also it's not a first term thing. This goes back generations. So all the Taliban, all the Talibs, right, that are raping these kids, they were raped themselves. So this is like it's one of those traumas which just goes on and on and on, and they just say it's like, yes, what we do. But no, it's very real. Dude, I'm fair-skinned, blue eyes, long blonde curly hair, right? So when I was out there, my hair is not always up. Dude, I was getting lit up and down, right? And it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's bad. Iraq wasn't that much better, by the way. At least I was a Marine and had a helmet on all times. But no, it's pretty disgusting. We banned obviously any boys at our camp. You had to be like Afghan security forces to be on that camp. We had good perimeter security. Every major U.S. installation did that. So, and I'm talking like throughout the country, because I did go to a lot of places throughout the country. But no, the Afghan posts, like the cop stations, the Afghan army bases, yeah, they had them all the time there. And it's disgusting.
What did you say they were called again? Just so people know. What did you call them again?
The Bachi boys or Chai boys. But one of my jobs in 2010 was, again, we were doing biometrics forensics, right? So some of the forensics was media exploitation, right? So we'd go through someone's cell phone, which has pictures and videos, and of course, all their texts, all their phone calls, and we'd go through that, export that into this huge database to where we could do like, long-term analysis. But we'd also do it for networking. So I had to go through, me and a few other guys, we had to go through media files to get the best screenshots possible, right? So that way it's like the most pixels in a face, so we can get screenshots, do facial recognition later on. And these videos, they would have, kids getting raped in the background or in the foreground. And you're like, trying to click through to find the right one. And it's just, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, it fucks you up, right?
Yeah, I could imagine what that does to your psyche. I mean, seeing just young kids getting in their most vulnerable moments, like getting raped, that's terrible. And it's so bad that we just turn the other eye, like, okay, just don't worry about that. Let's just worry about.
I didn't realize that, but someone did say that, like, if you're in this world, like the people that actually do CSAM and like actually exploit these things, they have thicker skin than I do, because it does hurt. It is very hard to do, right? Because then we weren't even being like, let's go kill that guy because he's raping a kid. Our job was intelligence, understanding the full networks. So it's like, it sucked.
Yeah.
But I talked to a guy who did it for a while, and he even said, like, it's going to change you. And like, one of the biggest trends we see is people will lose their empathy. Like, you will just stop feeling sorry for people, because how can you? Like, you can't feel bad for someone's bad day or their flat tire, or, someone spilled, wine on it, when you've seen this already. Like, now that you know that, how do you deal with this? And the thing is, you don't. So
definitely, yeah, desensitize you from just everything. I mean, that's, and then and just little by little we see these things happening, and it's desensitizing people, and it's becoming like the norm now, which is very, very unfortunate. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but so
go
for
ahead.
people out there, when you see like professionals in this environment, and you're like, wow, that guy's kind of a fucking asshole. There's a reason why. It's not you. It's not him. It's like it's what he's or she has gone through in this line of work. They care. They're great human beings. They care very much. But it's like you ain't gonna be the same person going in, coming out, because if you are, then it's like then there's something probably wrong with you. But it's like it doesn't change you. It's like I don't know how to tell you. But yeah, so. And we knew about that. I'm telling work about these things too, being like the rape culture, whatever else. And again, just toss aside, like, you know, hey, whatever, we got to get these people in. The director of USCIS at the time, Dow, she even said, like, the point was because we were in a labor shortage and fucking 88,000 Afghans are apparently going to fix that. That's why we had to do vetting so fast, was because we were in a labor shortage. It's bullshit. It was bullshit entirely through and through. But we had reports and stories confirmed, and a lot of people confirmed this afterwards, of just later, of child sexual abuse going on in these camps. Call soon. Sorry about that. But yeah, so it was preventable. It was we were able to do a lot of better things, and we didn't do it. Even right now, we can be doing a lot of things. So all those, by the way, all those Afghans that abandoned the gates, that was the first link in the chain to those Marines getting killed. Yeah, those we can find those guys immediately. It would take less than 24 hours to find out who's at those gates, because all those dudes have biometric enrollments for being in the military, and we know, being in the Afghan military, and we know there were some of the first flights coming in. So all I got to do is, and I proposed this. All you got to do is look. I proposed this, by the way, since 2021. I'm doing this for a while now. Is look at the flight records, who came in, find out who matched to NDS biometric records, and you go interrogate them, and you verify who these people were, and then you kick them out anyways. You deport these people because they were the first ones responsible for 12 Marines, a corpsman, and like how many people got killed in that attack? It was like, I think it was like 83 or 183. But there were some U.S. civilians inside there. There were children inside of there. There were green card holders. But it's like, you know, that needs to get handled. With that, justice has to happen. Otherwise, it's like, again, what are we doing? And that's what I think about unaccompanied kids anyways, too. It's just like, yes, there's some rescues going on, and it's not good enough. This is called failure. We are failing until we succeed. And to me, it's not good enough. So we'll see.
No, I hear you. I mean, yeah, that's something that needs to be done. We need to resolve that issue and have some closure. And it is unfortunate, like the way that whole thing went down, and all the people that served, and like people like you and other people I know, and just to have it end that way, it's just a slap in the face to everybody that ever spent time there. And I think it's, I also totally agree with you. Now, one of the things I wanted to get back on was once you started getting investigated, man, like what did that feel like? Were you like in total paranoia? I mean, what was going on in your mind, knowing like, oh shit, I'm at the center of an investigation now because I'm spilling the beans on all the shit going on with child sex trafficking?
Yeah. So the first part is it goes against everything you are, right? Like you don't leak. I'm not a leaker. You know what I mean? You keep secrets. You honor the NDAs you signed, and I have. It's just that everything I blew the whistle on, it does involve a nexus to public safety or national security or over corruption or deep state penetration or whatever. So it was still kind of unnatural to even do that. Like, trust me, the first phone call wasn't not easy when I hit a Veritas. But when I saw my face on Gateway Pundit when I went public, I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I'm a little guy. Like, you don't like seeing yourself online, right? So
it just totally exposed.
But once the investigation started, and by the way, the moment I kind of called Veritas, I knew like I'm going to eventually lose this job, whether I walk away or they fire me. Once I blew the whistle on the child trafficking thing, before I walked into that, I was like, okay, this is a matter of time, and I will be fired. Like they're going to find out who I am, and we'll go from there. When I went public, that's when I was like, okay, now I'm starting the clock. But it's like, but I have to, because this is a very, very serious thing.
I want to ask real fast before you go forward. Was James O'Keefe still with Project Veritas at that time?
No,
or
all
was
three
he
of my disclosures, he was still there. He interviewed me for the first two, and the third one, just based on the nature of what was going on with me, we agreed that they would do it without me because they were like, we're just going to be pissing the snake cage with you in it. So like, we'll release a story, but we're not going to have you as the whatever. But
Okay.
yeah, what was I saying there?
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to mess up
So yeah, they hit me up, the investigators. They were like, hey, we're with internal investigations, whatever. And I was like, what can I do for you? They're like, well, I'm sure you know why we're contacting you. And I was like, was my public disclosures about the whatever? They were like, yes, it was. And so yeah, I don't know if I'm pretty sure this is not violating an NDA. I don't think it is. But this whole process, like, it sucked. I'm not gonna lie to you. Number one, first off, by the way, the day I went public, this is mid-October. Like, all of work was told, everybody was told, do not talk to Aaron Stevenson anymore. So like, no one like approached me. My badge stopped working. I had to go around again to get a new badge and that kind of stuff. And it's just like, guys, that's like, I've been deployed. Like, if you're gonna like squeeze me, this ain't it. You know what I mean? But
yeah. And there was no way of them blacking out your face and changing your voice and all that kind of stuff, or
so
do you didn't think about it at the time?
Because it was so. I mean, you could totally find out it was me because listen to how I talk. Like, not a whole lot of So they could have, but I think honestly, well, first off, Veritas at the time and James O'Keefe, they were both kicked off Twitter. Like, no one saw my disclosure. Like, very, very few people saw my disclosure. The child trafficking story blew up because in 2022, when they came back on Twitter, Tara Rodas was their first story. And it was, again, like, hey, child trafficking, guys. And like, all of, a lot of people saw it, right? But that's why I was kind of joking spaces. You ever hear me? Well, I'll say things as someone the first, let's go to the hands. Hey, did you ever see Sound of Freedom? Thanks, Anon. But
the reason I asked about line in the sand though is because they do expose the part where they're saying they knew that they were sending kids to places that were flagged as child sex traffickers, and they were saying like they had to keep sending them there because they needed to process them within like a couple of weeks. So they were just like knowingly sending these kids to these places. Like, that is peak evil. That's evil.
Right.
There's no other way to put it. Like, you're violent. Like, I would have quit my job. I'm sorry, and I know it's easy to say than to do. I get that, but knowing that you're sending a bunch of kids to their demise and to get raped, and you gotta stand up for something, man. And that's why that movie was called that. The reason I asked you, I wasn't gonna ask you about Sound of Freedom, but Line in the Sand, just because I was wondering if you saw it, just because like all the stuff that they exposed in that documentary, it was just mind blowing. And you even see like one of the border patrol officers, just crying because he was just so guilty on what.
Yeah, that was Zach. He's got a Greek last name. His name is Zach, though.
Yeah, just to see like all the guilt that he was holding inside himself, and it was like, dude, this is fucked up. And like I said, I used to like drive through the area I was talking about, the immigrant center, and you would see buses in the middle of the night just going and picking up a bunch of people and sending them throughout the country. And you like, why is there a bus at 2 a.m? Like, what's going on here? And one of the acquaintances I talked to, I interviewed him, and he was the one on the ground kind of showing all that shit, like basically showing like how they're just trafficking people. Like, I mean, not always in the sex trafficking, but trafficking people throughout the US from this we're like a hub, San Antonio, Houston, all those kind of places. So it was just mind blowing to see it all happen, and people were just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, it's going on. Why is there not outraged at the level we think it should be on the situation going on? And basically,
let's squeeze on that. Actually, that's a very important point, because and so now this is going to become more like opinion, right? This is now Aaron speaking and what I see the world as. And I'll acknowledge right away, I'm very heavily influenced by like Machiavelli, right? Niccolò Machiavelli. He wrote More Than the Prince, everybody. There's a great book called The Discourses. And The Discourses is basically his analysis on the writings of a Roman historian called Livy, Livy. The Discourses is just like, oh, wow, here's a Roman historian. He wrote all this history down. Machiavelli reads it, and he just like makes analysis out of it. It's awesome, awesome book. But yeah, so number one, and this is, again, I am also a condition of the environment that I live in, right? I live in this time and space, and I don't live in a vacuum. People are not the answer, and they're never going to be in this time and space. We don't need, first off, we don't need more people standing up. Like, we know the problems. We need good people in government doing good work. And Machiavelli hits on this hard. And a lot of it also is like, if it's corrupt, Like you can't piecemeal it away. Like you got to go in there and swoop it out quick. Otherwise, it's going to be there forever. If you don't do it, your legacy is going to be very, very short lived. So, no, I don't believe in the people. And I'll explain this, by the way, with one story. In 2023, the whistleblowers and I came across this federal rule. So the administrative state can make law by calling it a federal rule, where they were going to codify into law all of the practices that the Biden administration created from HHS, which led to this trafficking epidemic, right? So like no background checks and virtual walkthroughs and just a bunch of bullshit, right? So they were going to go like, okay, well, right now it's only policy and it's like kind of guidance. We're going to go, that's now law. And they were going to do it via rule change. So a very good friend in Florida, you know who you are, that person sent it to us. We read through it. It's like 300 pages. And we were like, oh, wow, this is really bad. Like this thing cannot become law, guys. This is not going to be good. So we created this campaign for people to, from this 300-page rule change, we created 95 comments for people to copy and paste into the Federal Register. That way we could like slow down this rulemaking process and maybe like prevent it from becoming a law or even overturn it. So we made out of the whole document 95 or 94, 96 comments for people to go to, copy, paste, as many as you want, as long as you want. You can do it anonymously, no name, all that kind of stuff. It just needs people to do click, submit, click, submit. That's it. So we then went on a social media blitz for the remaining 39 days of this comment period. And it started off like small, like Twitter spaces that we could get onto. And eventually like, small steps. Kyle Seraphin, another suspendable, he was like the first kind of big account that like gave us a platform. And I think with like 20 days left, so about halfway through, we just crossed like 10,000 comments. And our goal was 50,000 comments. We were like, we've seen rule changes like get scrapped because 50,000 comments flooded it, and people were like, it's too unpopular. We're not going to do it anymore. And then we just keep doing, podcast and show after podcast and show, X Spaces every night, getting people to do this thing. Second last show we did, Tara went on to InfoWars with Alex Jones. And he was so fucking blown away. He was like, whoa, clear my evening schedule. Let's bring her back on. She goes on again that night and, gets more people. And then we went on Redacted, everybody, right? So the last day we did the final count, and there was just under 75,000 comments into the Federal Register. And we were like, oh my gosh, like we're going to win. We're actually going to stop this thing, because now the government has to go through and respond to every single comment. It has to go like, has to take it. They got to read through them all, whatever else, right? You would think that HHS didn't do that. They were like, nah, fuck that. We're not doing it. Rule change was going through as is, guys. But we caught the eye of Senator Chuck Grassley, and his staff like saw our efforts, and they were like, hold on, what's going on here? And so they then threatened, if you guys do this rule change, we're going to initiate what's called a Congressional Review Act, where Congress can actually stop a rule change from going into effect, which I had no idea existed, by the way. So we saw that. We were like, well, we just changed the game. Like, oh my gosh, like now this isn't even about delaying it. We can actually stop this thing. And they
got a little blueprint on how to do things. Huh?
They had the votes to do the CRA, but that's when Biden dropped out. And when Biden dropped out, all the Democratic support said, we're not doing this because it's going to be political suicide. We want to win the election. It would be good for us to go against Biden, whatever. And they were going to, but we didn't give a shit. We wanted this rule change not to go through. So long story short, this effort was the first and only effort ever. By the way, there's only been like 17 successful CRAs going back to 95 when it was started. But every single CRA that's ever been initiated and succeeded or even initiated came from the backing of like the NRA or like lobbyists, whatever else. This was the first one ever done by people. Okay. So some people hear that and they go like, yeah, power to the people. And I'm going to blackpill you right now. Over 1 million people saw the campaign, right? We counted up the number of like sites we were on and everything else. Over 1 million human beings saw what we were doing and were like, oh, cool. There's this thing where I can get involved. I'm always asking the question, I don't like child trafficking. How do I get involved? And they're giving me an answer. So go to this website that they're constantly giving throughout this thing, and I have to copy and paste whatever. Over 1 million people saw it. We got less than 75,000 comments. That's a pretty bad turnaround, okay?
Yeah.
But More
Sad.
people, according to the analysis from the IT side of this website, more people went to the website and did not leave a comment as opposed to those who went to the website and left a comment. So more people clicked on the site and then didn't do anything at all. And of those 75,000 comments, roughly 30 to 35,000, give or take, maybe 28,000 on the low end, came from around like 4 dozen people who just all day long went through the copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. One person I think did around he did like 9 or 10 rounds of this thing. 9 or 10 times 96, those numbers add up, right? So again, the majority of the effort came from a small group of people. So that's why I'm sitting there saying, number one, we don't need people to stand up right now to expose themselves and get fired. Don't do that. Zach just got fired, by the way, the guy from Line in the Sand. Mm-hmm. But what we need is good people in government doing good things. And to everyone that says, oh, from the government, I'm here to help, shut the fuck up. Don't belong to the organization. And to anybody that says, the government's an ocean liner, it takes a long time to turn. No, it's not. How long does it take to get Ukraine funding?
Yeah, that's yeah.
So don't buy the bullshit when people say these things. Government can move as fast as the speed of people, and people can move very, very fast.
I feel like anytime I hear I'm from the government, I'm here to help. I mean, that's an automatic red flag that nothing good's gonna come out of this. Like, that's my idea. I think the government doesn't do anything that they should, and every time they get involved, they just make things worse. So you're preaching to the choir here. Now, I do want to ask, what is the rule you were talking about, like that? Because one of the things I did want to discuss before we have to go was, I know Biden took away that DNA testing thing, where you have to test the subjects that you were coming in to make sure that they were the rightful guardian of that child, and it was as easy as a mouth swab. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's quick too.
Can you explain a little before you go about that?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. President Biden took it away. So President Trump initiated it, and it was actually only a pilot program for a little while. And they were capturing I think at the time, which was a different stage of the child trafficking economy at the border, but they were capturing around 33% of the cases were known fraud. So God,
that's a big amount,
right? So not getting everybody. On the Biden administration, they scrapped it, obviously. And then now, of course, President Trump has brought it back, which is good, but it's not the answer. It's not the solution.
No, yeah, but it's something. It's a significant number. 33% is a pretty big number.
But it's not the solution. And vetting is not the solution either, because you cannot vet for child trafficking. You can vet for terrorism, you can vet for gang activity, but you cannot vet for an event, right? I may know you're in a gang, but I don't know if you're a drug user, a shooter, right, or whatever, or a child trafficker. Yeah, I can screen for arrest records. But that's not vetting child trafficking. That's screening for convicted felons. So I want to make sure people understand, never, ever, ever settle on, oh, we've improved vetting. I've done vetting. You cannot vet for an activity. You cannot do it. The only way that you can vet for an activity is once they do the activity. And I'm not willing to sit there and say oh, we made vetting better, but kids can still get raped and sold for sex. That's not passing for me. Yes, we can use it, but that's not the solution. The solution, I believe, is just ending the program. I don't believe it should exist at all.
And what's that program you're talking about?
The unaccompanied child program. And especially by the actual letter of the law. So to be an unaccompanied alien child, there are stipulations for it. 1, you have to be under the age of 18. 2, you cannot have any status into the country or permission or visas, whatever. So you're either in the country illegally or you don't have anything to access to the country, like passport card, green card, whatever, right? And number 3, and this is the one that gets skipped, is you have no family inside of the United States. So right now, yeah, that's actually written in the law, by the way. So you have to have those 3 things to be
so stupid.
Well, yeah, but so now what they do, though, is they're making it a family reunification program. I'm sorry, I'm not okay with that. That's not good. No. I'm not okay with kids crossing the desert to go, to their mom and dad in the country or a cousin or whatever. It's no, it's not how it works. That's not okay.
And on the flip side, if we let our kids do anything, 1/10 of that, they would take them away. CPS, they would, you know what I'm saying? It's so, and illegals are coming in and they're doing all kinds of crazy shit. One of the things that one of my pet peeves, right, is when illegals that have DWIs and they're like, it's a victimless crime. And it's no, it's not, because he could take one little turn and kill an entire family because he's drunk. It's not a victimless crime. And I've heard that I used to be a teacher back in before, and yeah, man, during the Biden years, we used to see all kinds of MS-13 members. You have the gangs, and they're coming in. We don't know how old they are. They're just coming into school. They're recruiting people. I saw it firsthand. It was disgusting. And then people are just like, well, we gotta let them in, and we gotta like be considerate of their culture. And I'm like, no, you either
No.
adapt or you get the fuck out. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, no, this is
Yeah.
America. We're gonna be American. And especially me, as you can see, I'm Hispanic, so they always tell me, "Oh my God, you're a fucking Uncle Juan, and you're against your own people." And it's like, no, I'm not. I'm American, first of all, and then second of all, like, just because the color of my skin doesn't dictate who I should vote for or what party I should be supporting. And I always hated that. But yeah, that's insane, man. Like the amount of and like you said, like it is a black pill in some ways, because like how do I help? But it's like nothing you can do, and
Well,
like you said, I think that's actually a good thing, getting rid of that whole
yeah,
child
and
unaccompanied
that, that's an important thing,
minor
though.
kind of
So
rule.
we already gave the mandate. The mandate was delivered in November 2024. The next mandate is going to be delivered in November 2028. So the one thing I don't like, by the way, at all, and this is why I'm also against like the people being the answer. I'm not a populist at all. I think Americans should be raising their families. Like I want them to
Yeah,
spend their time off fucking social media and off of protesting. I want them to raise their children in their communities and make things better, whatever, right? But to live their lives without politicking every single day of the week. I don't like that at all. Like, I really want American families to be American families. I don't want them to be like, oh yeah, well, we got, Johnny's game in the morning. But I got to do a Twitter space tonight because we have to advocate for this, because like, no, we gave the mandates, like do the mandates, and that's what's need to be done. And that's why I'm a huge proponent of um, your personnel is your policy is your personnel. This is not all these failures right now that are happening. This is not a President Trump problem. He said go do XYZ. This is not a Mr. Holman problem. He said go do XYZ. This is not your secretary's problem. If they've conveyed the message to go, coming down, this comes on the actual federal employees, your supervisors, low-level political appointees, and you just need serious people doing serious shit in serious positions. And that's how it is. And some things, yes, I will acknowledge they take time. I'm sure tariffs are a pain in the ass. Child trafficking ain't one of them. We can find these kids very,
yeah.
very fast, but it's going to take a different approach. And this approach that doesn't exist right now because they don't have the background for it. Like, again, I've done targeting. Like, we know how the government knows how to find people. Remember J6? Remember J7?
Yeah, of course.
Like, we
I've
can find
interviewed.
people pretty quickly if we
Huh?
choose to. A breakout.
Oh yeah, they like put them at gunpoint. I mean, they made a
Right.
spectacle out of it. I've interviewed a lot of them, and I'm kind of friends with some of them now. And they talk about their experiences, and I'm like, damn, they really, and they were like, lock them up 23 hours a day in solitary confinement, and just let them rot in jail. And yeah, man, I totally
I want to use that, and I want to use that terrible tool against child trafficking networks, and dismantle the economy, take down its infrastructure, the NGOs, the contracts, the way the whole thing like operated. Because let's say that there's another mandate in 2028. Let's say it goes blue. I want this thing destroyed so they can't use it. I want to take apart this whole child, and that goes for CPS and foster care as well. I'm not the smartest guy in the room in that one, but again, that's a huge supply of kids getting exploited and trafficked and abused. And like, these things just got to change. And I'm just I'm a believer in being aggressive. I'm a very aggressive minded person. So that's how I see things.
No, when it's something like that, I mean, you gotta that has to take priority, and you gotta use any means necessary to stop that form of evil. I mean, because it is evil, man. It is like and there's
100%.
no other way to explain you. I mean, abusing, taking advantage of a child. I mean, that's one thing all Americans can come together on is, when children are being exploited, that's something that we need to address right away. That should be top priority in any discussion. That's why a lot of things with Trump's getting in trouble with now is he's kind of sidestepping the Epstein thing. It's like, no, because everybody is on board with like, who are the pedophiles? How do we fucking parade them as a walk of shame in orange jumpsuits and shackles and handcuffs? Because that's something that needs to take priority. And we need it. And I'm not talking about just the Epstein profile. I mean, all that. I think, like you said, it has to be a bunch of federal workers doing their job, being serious about it and exploring every avenue they can get to find these people that are taking advantage of children, because those are the most vulnerable among us, and we got to do something about it
100%.
for sure.
100%.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Man, I want to ask you a lot more questions, and I know you have to go, but I hope you can come back. I hope we can have a discussion and talk if you're willing to do that. I want to show your account real quick. Give me 1 second. This is again Aaron Stevens. Go follow him on X at at DHS Aaron. They have when do you have your spaces? You have them once like what time
I don't
every day?
I don't host. I have no patience.
Yeah, I know you're just
I'll
involved in them.
jump in them when they're
I
whenever sorry, I'll jump in as a speaker whenever I feel I'm one of the smartest guys in the room. If I'm not like a smart person, I will let the smart people talk. I'm a big believer also, again, like, talent, right? So in job
yeah,
spaces,
that's why I let you talk today.
or
This is why I was like, yeah, you go ahead, bro. You fucking
no,
go tear it up. And no, I've heard y'all talk before, and I've tried to get involved and kind of get in, but yeah, they ain't gonna let me in
next time
because
I
I'm just
see you,
unknown
I'll vouch for you
to a
though
lot.
too. Next time I'm in a
I'm sorry,
space,
say it again.
if I see you, I'll, like, hey, there's, samurai, whatever. I'll make sure they bring you up.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool, man, and I really do appreciate it. And like I said, I've heard y'all's conversations talking about just the the way government works, and it's really interesting to me just to hear all that kind of stuff from like because I never was in the military, nothing. I used to work on Camp Pendleton
Oh yeah,
since you're a Marine. I don't know. Yeah, I used to work at the country store.
what, on
I
main
was
side?
a stalker there.
On main side?
I'm sorry.
I was
Yeah, main side. Yeah, I used to work at the country store for a while, and my wife is from Japan, so I dealt with USCIS. So my vision of USCIS is dealing with green card situation, and oh, it was a pain in the ass, bro. That was a bitch. We were in there like 2 years until finally Ted Cruz expedited our case, and they have a bunch of USCIS like little Facebook
Mhm.
groups, and the thing that would piss me off is like me and my wife were married for like 3 4 years at the time. Like we lived in Japan because I used to live in Japan. I lived in Asia for about 10 years, and when I was living out there, we lived there for like 4 years. I mean, we were married like 4 years. I had my kid, and then once word started to do the application, and then you would see like and a lot of them were Filipinas. Like a lot of them were Filipinos, and they'd be like, "Oh, I miss my husband. I saw him, in October when we first met, and we got married." And I'm like, they're like, "Oh, we finally got our approval," and I'm like, "What the like? How the fuck is this person? I met this Philippine, and it's like this old white dude or this old fucking ex-military guy went to the Philippines and met some young hot chick and then got married, and there was like no system of like, oh, you've been married this long, you could probably get priority, right? It was just like a lottery system, and it took forever, and it wasn't until Ted Cruz actually expedited my stuff to where I got my wife back, because I was 6 months without them when I had first moved back. And yeah, man, it was a pain in the ass. So my my experience with them wasn't the best, but they were nice people. I mean, they were just doing their job, but it was just like, so my vision of USCIS. But yeah, man, I enjoyed my time on Camp Pendleton. It was fun. San Diego, Oceanside. I used to live on Oceanside, like right out the gate, and beautiful place. I don't know about now, because I mean, Gavin Newsom kind of made sure that
Yeah,
place is a shithole.
the memories in my
But
head. Like I was at Pendleton for 7 years, 03 to 2010. So
oh shit,
I have good
okay,
memories there. But that's like, it's that was on Camp Del Mar, which is like right by it's the ocean, Del Mar, whatever that means.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I was also in Temecula for a couple of years too. So I love
okay, yeah, that's a nice place. The one thing I remember about Marines, man, they would come in and they would get those big old
yeah.
BMF monsters like every morning, and then I would see them in the morning. Then I'd see them in the afternoon, and then I'd see them in the evening. I'm like, motherfucker, you about to have a heart attack? You're like 18. Why do you need so many goddamn energy drinks? And that was, dude, these motherfuckers were huge, man. They were like big, but they were BMFs, like that's what
That's
the
fun.
name came from. But it was interesting, man. I had a good time, and it was one of the funniest things that I tell people. And I mean, it's not even funny; it's sad. But it was just like, what the fuck is So a lot of the people that work there are like military wives, right? You would see like a bunch of Marine wives, and they would say all the time like, "I miss my husband so much. I love him. I miss him." And then their husband be back for like 2 days from deployment. They come back from Iraq. During that time, it was more Iraq and a couple Afghanistan. And right away they'd be like, "Man, I can't wait till the motherfucker gets deployed again." I'm like, "You've been there 2 days," and then they would tell me, "You don't know what it's like to be married." I'm like, "You don't know what it's like to be married, obviously, because you put like 2 days with your husband after a 9-month deployment, and then you're talking about like you want him to go back. Like what?" But it good memories, man. I had a good time out there. All my roommates were Marines, and it was funny. All my roommates in San Diego were Marines from San Antonio, Texas. So, which was cool because
Oh,
we got to
whoa.
like kind of had that camaraderie, like back home, and this, and it was fun, man. I lived out there for about 2.5 years. It was a good time. And then I moved to Arizona, which was a terrible mistake. You never go from San Diego, the best weather in the world, to Arizona, the worst. And I was like, what did I do this for? This is a dumb. This is a dumb move. I didn't think this through at all. And then yeah, man. But I lived in Thailand for 3 years, which a lot of like what we're talking about is done over there as well. I didn't see any personally because I didn't want to. And if you want to, you could see a lot of that trafficking kind of thing. And I was in Cambodia for a little bit, and then I was in Japan for about 5.5 years. So got to explore Asia and had a good time out there. It was cool. It was cool, man. I ended up starting a family, coming home, and here I am now back
Very
in
good.
Texas. Yeah, brother. But definitely follow him. Check when he's on spaces. This man has a lot of knowledge. I really do hope you could come back. Let me know. Keep in contact, and I'll continue to promote you as much as I can because I think your voice is needed for times like this to explain to people what needs to be done so we could kind of stop this evil that is thrust upon us. Like we said, the most vulnerable people out there. We need to stop this shit, and like this shit needs to fucking end 100%. And take the proper steps, like you said, because I never heard that point of view of we need to get rid of this to do this, and that's really interesting to me. And I thank you for kind of pointing that out to
Thank you, man.
everybody. Hopefully we hopefully things can get rolling, and better things will come upon it. Any last things you want to
Crisis
say?
King, and that's it. Crisis King. Pray.
And is that why you became religious, because of this experience? By the way,
No, it's
I'm
good.
sorry, I had one last question
No, to
before
me,
you.
it was 2020. Again, I was looking around my life and just being like, wow. Well, sorry. First, it was, the whole like, man, there's a lot of lies. Like, you remember 2020, right? And I was just like, man,
Yeah, I remember it.
a
I
fucking lot
remember
of
it now.
lies. And by the way, I'm not dumb. I wasn't like, no, the government tells the truth. We're all good. But I was just like the everyday lives, people and society, culture. And I was just like, man, this ain't good. And I just started like, okay, well, if that's not good, I need to start knowing what is true, what is real. So, like an analyst, right? I did the whole like, who am I, what am I, where am I, when am I, and I was really trying to deduce down like those simple questions. And when I got to the part of what am I? I'm a father, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm an atheist. And I was like, what is that? What is an atheist? Like I know what a father is, I know what being a brother is, but what's an atheist? And I started just kind of like looking at my arguments of why I was. And when you actually like analytically, when you start going through them, it's like, man, they're actually really kind of fragile. They're really kind of like they're not very deep, right? And I came to the realization, like, okay, well, atheism is not true. Got it. So what is true? And that's when I started looking at religions and understanding whatever crossed out pretty quick, like Islam, Judaism, Hindu, all those ones. I was like, nope, 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 nope. Landed on Christianity. And then, and again, this is not a short process. This was like over a couple months. And,
Sure.
I just
Yeah,
started
I'm
learning
sure.
more.
It's
I
it's a
learned about Orthodoxy. I went through its history, it's all those things. And I was just like, oh, that seems actually very like logical and historical. And I like how you can trace things back. I really like how there's like a chain in these things, and like you can, like you can do analysis on it. And then and that was that. First time I went to church was the
okay.
Sunday was to Divine Liturgy was the Sunday after I blew the whistle publicly, and that was that. And I'm also the kind of guy that like I dive
That's
into
awesome,
things.
man.
I don't tip my toes. I fucking just jump in. So once I know it, I go.
I hear you, man. I'm the same way, man. When I get into something like even if I watch a movie and I don't know something about it, like it's kind of a true story, my wife already knows. I wake up in the morning, she goes, "You fucking spend all night researching all the shit in the movie." I'm like, "Yeah," because I can't do anything. I'm a passionate person, as you can tell. Like, I mean, anybody that has a podcast, right? They talk a lot. You like talking. I could tell you're a very talkative person, and you have a strong personality, and that's one thing. Like yourself. And when I do something, I don't I don't want to half-ass it unless it's something I'm not really into. But if I'm into it, like I like history. That's what I used to teach before, but I love history. I love like learning just languages. I'm not the best, but I can speak a good amount. And then I love like all the shit like politics. And I hear what you're saying. You don't want everybody to be politically active. You want them to focus on family. But I'm one of those people, like, I'm always going to be politically active because I just love it, and I think it's not like it's a weird thing, but I want to be informed and I want to know what's going on because there's a lot of lies always being thrown out there, and then a lot of people will say shit, and I want to be able to counteract them and say, no, that's bullshit. Let me tell you why, and
Exactly.
blah 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 blah. And yeah, I just don't believe in when I'm doing those things. I'm like, bro, if you're gonna talk, we're gonna have a conversation about something. Please tell me you studied it first, because I don't want to just hear the same old MSNBC, CNN, or Fox News talking points. I don't want to hear any of that shit because you're just gonna bore me, and I'm just gonna get tired of it. And I don't even want to have a debate with you because it's not gonna be worth my time. Because I want to, when I debate somebody too, and then like with people like you, I want to talk because I want to learn something. I want somebody to teach me something, and I also, I know
Yeah,
novel
well, to
idea.
be fair, actually, I don't debate. Good, I'm saying that from a position of, it's not that I don't listen to people. I will listen and learn, but I don't debate because if I have a belief,
I don't debate on my pod, but I debate like
I don't
in
do that.
life.
I've
Like when there's 10.
beliefs that I
Oh,
have,
you don't
and
even.
I will never, like, for example, like, if someone's like, "Oh, you're Orthodox, why don't you debate me on your religion?" I'm like, "No, I don't believe in yours. Why would I debate you? Like, I objectively think yours is false. I'm not going to move off my position. That's the point of a debate, is like willing to engage the other for the purpose of explanation. Like, we can have an argument, but it's like, but I'm not going to debate people on things that I believe in. That it's not just religion, but it's
That makes
also more.
sense.
It's a lot of things, obviously. But again, I listen a lot. A lot of times spaces, I will just sit there as a listener and just like kind of soak things in. That's the intel guy in me. ABC, always be collecting. But no, when it comes to what I'm smart in, I will whatever. But when it comes to confrontation, that's when I kind of strive in. I'm really good at confrontation, and it's not drama, as people say. I mean actual conflict. I just, for whatever reason, it's like I don't know. I go to it.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. If you have like your core value, you're not gonna change your core value, especially if that's what you believe in, like
Yeah.
something like that. But I do debate with people just because like they'll say, oh, maybe they'll say something I don't know, and I'll go home and research it and be like, oh shit, I didn't know that. Let me get the this talking point about it and this talking point and kind of learn something from it. But yeah, my core values, I'm not gonna ever like
Yeah, those should not be
switch on those
debatable.
kind of
Those should.
things.
Those are
Yeah, yeah.
tectonics.
It's
You
like,
don't want
yeah,
to move
maybe.
tectonics too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like you believe this, cool. I believe this, and that's gonna be the end of it. And if we have a discussion about it, we're both gonna believe the same shit that we started in
Yeah.
this conversation with, and that's usually the way it
If
goes. So
anything, I
yeah,
might come away not
but
liking the person more.
yeah, me and you can't be friends. Like everything that you said made everyone in this room more stupid. If I can go with that Billy Madison talking point. But yeah, man. Again, thank you for your time. I hope you
Definitely.
keep in touch, brother. I'll message you soon. Thank you for taking the
Anytime,
time. I
man.
really
Thank you.
appreciate it. It was really interesting talking to you. I appreciate it. Hopefully we can do it again.
That was good. Thank you, man.